Hello and happy Halloween to one and all here from the Movie Pope podcast. And today is a very special episode because
Mm.
normally normally whenever we do these Halloween specials, we usually do one review, but this year it's going to be double header. So first of all, Lee and I are going to be doing a review of War of the Worlds from Amazon Studios, starring Ice Cube and Eva Longoria. And then after that, the robot will be doing his review of The Color Out of Space from 2019, starring Jolie Richardson and Nicolas Cage, based on the H.P. Lovecraft's short story of the same name. But before we dive in, first of all, happy Halloween, and thank you so much for sticking with us. It's been quite a month. We've reviewed a lot of horror movies from different subgenres, from the dark fantasy to body horror, and we've had quite a lot to say. So if you're enjoying the content, remember to like, comment, subscribe. We're slowly growing our audience. We would like to accelerate that. So if you can, just be sure to hit the like button. Lets YouTube know that we're a safe channel. We're not offensive to anyone. And subscribe so you never miss an episode drop, because we are putting out new content almost every day of the week. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with War of the Worlds. So
I think the robot got the better of this deal, man. Not gonna lie. After watching this,
I mean, listen. You were the one who just slid this on the table at the production meeting, and you were like, "Hey,
that's true.
Let's take a look at War of the Worlds." And
That's true.
I, as the producer, simply said, "All right." It was more out of a desperation because I only realized that there were 5 Fridays in October, not 4. So what I originally thought was going to be the substance as the last movie that we reviewed for October turned out to be the penultimate, not the actual last one. But the thing about the War of the Worlds is, it's a novella written by H.G. Wells from the 20th century, which seemed like 100 years ago now. Well, it actually is 100 years ago now, but it's been adapted in media in so many different forms. The big one that comes to mind is the two big ones that come to mind actually are is the radio drama from 1938, starring a young Orson Welles, that was so convincing that people actually thought they were being invaded by Martians, and they were calling the National Guard and the police and just raising a huge hubbub. And Orson Welles actually had to come out and say, "Yeah, actually, that's just a radio drama. I was just fucking with you guys. But thanks for letting me know I'm a really, really good actor." And then Steven Spielberg would do his own version in 2005, starring Tom Cruise and the young Dakota Fanning, which would later be parodied in Scary Movie 4. But in both cases, both were kind of leaning into the zeitgeist of the era, because Orson Welles' radio drama was very much leaning into into what was going on in the world in the 1930s, especially with the rise of the Nazis in Europe. And then Steven Spielberg's version was still leaning into the trauma that we experienced following September 11th, which was only 4 years prior to its release. But this version here, with starring Ice Cube and Eva Longoria, Lee, this one had me scratching my head, because I had no idea what I was watching, apart from the fact that this was, and I think you will agree with me, is a period piece. It's
the very noticeable COVID period from a few years ago. You mean
the period that everybody would like to forget. Might I add? So Lee, what was it about this movie that you decided, I think this would be a pretty good movie to review for our Halloween special finale, 2025?
Yeah. Well, the Halloween part, I guess, is a kind of a stretch, right? Because I guess it does have aliens in it, right? So that's like kind of, in a similar vein as some other things we've kind of watched. But I think the main reason I wanted to watch it overall was, I remember back to, I think it was 2005, right? The War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise in it.
Yeah.
And 20 years ago, and I remember that being a pretty big deal when it came out, right? Like, it obviously had like really strong production budget. Like, this was a big thing in 2005. And I remember all of a sudden seeing like a trailer pop up for this, and it came out like literally a day or so before the film was coming out. And I'm like, that's really weird. Why would you hold off on promoting a trailer to the day before something came out?
And we actually did a trailer reaction to that too. And we were very befuddled.
As soon as we saw it, I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then all the reviews came out, and I was like, something juicy's here, right? So, and I think to the Halloween, right? We reviewed, I would say, majority of these have been strong films, right?
Mhm.
They've been rather good things. That some of them gonna have some Oscar contention, like The Substance for makeup and everything like that. So, I mean, you have some strong films there.
Yeah, and
And
Sinners is actually on the list for next year's Oscars too.
yes, yeah, which absolutely no shock for me for that.
Yep.
War of
Hmm.
the Worlds would not be up for any Oscars. So I think this was I guess, a fun way to end the month where we've been watching a lot of good things, and I felt like we need a little bit of a palate cleanser, right? Because this was anything but good. So I guess I'll jump into War of the Worlds as we, I guess, see the War of the Worlds through a computer screen, right? So this, I guess, for a very quick background, right? This came out during COVID, and it's very obvious it came out, or it was being made during COVID, right? Let me rephrase that. So it was being made during COVID, and I think it's pretty safe to say you could tell it was, because literally everything is pretty much viewed through a computer screen, which was a very odd choice.
Well, you also notice too that that whenever we see the characters, they're usually by themselves too. So a
Yes,
little bit of the whole social distancing kind of
yes,
vibe going on. I mean, you'll notice um, Radford, like he's in the office all by himself.
yes,
That was the
yes,
first thing that
yes.
stood out to me, and I'm like,
I,
I'm like, so is he the only guy? So did he get like the short end of the stick? Did they just tell him, hey, listen, everybody else can work from home, but you, Radford, you're the only one coming to the
Yeah,
office?
it made me laugh every time I saw it because I'm like, okay, so Radford, right? He works for Homeland Security, and I guess he's the only one that worked Homeland Security. So hey, if you ever felt uncomfortable about everything that's going on, just know that there's only one person that ever exists in Homeland Security, and that is Ice Cube. So hopefully you feel confident with that. And honestly, seeing how he works, it kind of drew some red flags because we get introduced to our players, right, or the key people in this film, right? So the first one is that he seems to have some type of friendship with the NASA scientist Sandra, right? Sandra, that's played by Ava Longoria. Um, I'm not sure the connection between NASA and Homeland Security. I don't know. They don't even really talk about how these characters know each other. I don't know if they're like in a relationship or just good friends, or both of them just wanted a paycheck, so they just got into this film. I don't know, but they're both there. And Radford, he spends a lot of his time just kind of stalking his kids. So you see like instances of him like following his daughter who's pregnant. She's also like a biomedical researcher, so she's the very intelligent person, and he's like stalking her and everything that she's doing, and I guess has access to her fridge. I don't know. And then you also have his son, who's like obsessed with, I guess in this example, video games, because we see him like remote into his son's PC and like uninstall a game, and it's just, it's concerning to me that Radford, I would say his work-life balance is a little concerning because I think he probably spends more time following his two kids than he does paying attention to national security. So what do you think about Radford? Do you feel like he's the right person to be in charge of whatever he's doing?
I mean, first of all, can I just say, Ice Cube? I am not convinced at all by his acting skills. Let alone I am not convinced of him, being an IT guy or an analyst or whatever for DHS. Second of all, to your point, I just find it weird that he's just stalking his kids. Well, he's stalking his daughter. His son, he'd give two shits about.
Yes.
If you'll notice that, so there's a bit of a favoritism going on here,
Hmm.
and obviously he also, being the Black father, he has to take an issue with his daughter's, I guess, boyfriend or girl or fiance. I don't know exactly what he is, but he's an Amazon delivery driver, and,
Hey, well,
and
just hold off on that Amazon stuff. We're gonna wait on that.
yeah, I mean, never mind that it's been produced by Amazon, but but obviously he's just doing the whole guess who's coming to dinner shtick, where he's like, hey, you're dating my daughter and you happen to be of a different race, so I'm gonna treat you like shit, because why not? It's one of the oldest shticks in the book, and can I just say, like, if I was in an office like that, and there, because I'm assuming there's no supervision really, because even the people at the higher ups could give two shits about what's going on at the building itself, right? Because what made me laugh was like later on when they order a strike on the building, like does it not occur to them that there's
Yeah,
one
there's some
guy in
guys
the
there.
building?
Yeah, yeah.
It's
It's
like
cool.
well, because as I mentioned earlier, like if this is taking place during the pandemic, I would assume like all employees, and I emphasize all employees, are going to be working remotely. Like and if Radford is one of those guys who's got like a certain level of security clearance, I think people would know who he is, right?
Yeah.
Even the director, who seems like an asshole and is very dismissive, I would imagine he would at least be aware of who Radford is, rather than just treating him as like Bill from The Office who gets stuck in the basement, right? But apparently, Radford is just one of those people who, even when he makes a nuisance of himself, he's quickly forgettable, right? And that's who he is as a character, is that he's a forgettable guy. He's
Yeah.
of no consequences, to the point that the U.S. government even decides, we're just going to lock the entire building. We don't care if he's in there because fuck him, and then we're going to blow him up, and then no one's going to miss him apparently, because all the important people we have are working remotely.
Yeah.
Assuming
But let's not forget, right?
assuming that anybody else is working,
Yeah, he is on a call with the president too, right? So there seems to be he's the most important person in the world, and nobody at all in the same moment, right? So it is very interesting.
It's
how his
amazing.
character's
Like
portrayed.
it's amazing. Like I will say this: the movie has found a way to make a seemingly significant person feel so insignificant. Because he can talk to the president one scene, then he could be locked in a building that's scheduled to be blown up by two bombers the next. I
Mhm.
mean, it's weird.
Yeah, it is. It's a very bizarre thing. But on the bright side, when Radford's working, right, he's I guess in the film, right, we're trying to find the identity of this person, the disruptor, right, and their whole deal, the disruptor, right, they're trying to release information about this program that's called Goliath, right, and I have to bring up Goliath because Goliath obviously plays a very important part in the climax. But in essence, what Goliath is, it's pretty much unmitigated access to anything you want, right? It's everything, right? It's anybody that's anybody that's worried about Big Brother. Well, Big Brother is going to be very apparent with this Goliath program, and this kind of posed an interesting question because they talk a lot about this, right? They talk a lot about kind of this government oversight and having everybody having the government in everyone's business. And I had to ask, was like, is this needed in this? Like, is there something I missed in this film? Is it deeper than I give it credit for? Because I think of a good movie, right? Have you ever seen Enemy of the State, Luca?
Yeah, well, I was actually going to say, it kind of seems like at one point they're kind of merging two adaptations together, so they're doing both War of the
Yes.
Worlds in 1984. If you think about it.
Yes. No. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. So they definitely are like blending these elements in, and it was just very shocking to me because I'm like, gosh, like I think of Enemy of the State, right? Something with the late Gene Hackman in it, right? And Will Smith, right? It's the two
Mhm.
kind of lead guys. Actually, was quite an ensemble cast there, but it's just I think of a movie like that where I feel like they really address that in a proper way. And in this, it feels like, hey, we're gonna have these almost two conflicting stories going on at the same time, because really we have everything going on with the aliens in the very near future, but then we also had this like odd subplot of like, oh, we have to figure out the disruptor, and we're going to talk about like, oh, government's infringing on everything. It was a very odd choice to try to blend all this together. It almost makes it feel like they just like had two different scripts, and they're just like, well, I don't like either of them. Let's just kind of like put it together, and we'll just see what happens. I don't know. I don't have a good way to explain why they felt the need to add this in. But they have this raid, right, to get the disruptor. And this is where I guess the main part of the story happens, right, where we start to see these meteors falling from the sky, and then we see all this wanton destruction. But it all happens on the computer screen, right? I just want to make sure I emphasize that everything that we're witnessing is through a computer screen. So, we're constantly seeing like YouTube videos, and they're on Twitter or X or whatever it was in that time frame. That's how we're getting all this information. And I just find that so weird, right? So, like, when these attacks are happening, the way that we get, I guess, access to everything that's going on are people putting things onto YouTube, Facebook, and all these other media platforms. And it really made me ask, is like every single time something happens, immediately there's some edited stuff on YouTube. And it really bugged me, because every time anything happens, it just has to be there immediately in front of our face. So, Luca, I know you do a lot of editing, right? Do you think it would be hard to like clip together a whole bunch of crazy events happening and then just have everything kind of like be at your fingertips within a few seconds of it being needed?
I mean, if you are able to do it, you would literally have nothing else going on in your life in order to do that.
It's crazy. Everything was just like there. Oh, cool. There's meteors. Well, bam. Now we got some video on YouTube about it. I'm like, how does this happen? But yeah, so we find out that within these meteors that are coming down, we have our big old alien robots. So Amazon, right? It's a pretty big company, would you say?
I mean, it's modestly sized.
Yeah, right. I think it's a pretty big company, and I mean, we know that Amazon is willing to throw around money, right? Because we see like the Ring of Power, right? Notorious for how expensive it is and how much they're putting on the screen.
Well, don't forget too. They also just purchased the rights for the James Bond movies, and they got Stephen Knight from Peaky Blinders scripted to write the next one. Who knows when it's coming out? But just so you know, Stephen Knight is on board. So
yep. So another really big iconic IP, right? Everyone I think probably knows James Bond, and I'm gonna tell you right now, when I saw those robots on the screen, my jaw hit the floor for all the wrong reasons. This looks like crap. There is not a nice way to put it, and I'm sorry for anyone that worked on it. Maybe you had like a deadline of you had like 5 days and you had a gun to your head to get this done, because oh my gosh, like these things, it just looked so low budget, and it just made me ask, like, how can a company this big produce something of such low quality? And I don't know, man. Help me understand. What's Amazon thinking?
I mean, it was the pandemic. Everybody was just trying to get by. I don't know.
Sure. But I mean, Amazon's a pretty big thing, right? I think you could have found a different way of doing this, or like, you go a different route and maybe you just don't release this at all. Because if you're just going to put out like garbage, like I can't imagine anyone would see this and be happy with the results. Right? I can't believe that. I just feel like this has been like butchered, and they just didn't know what to do with it, and then they're just like, screw it. We're just.
The tripod ships from Scary Movie were far better than this.
Yeah, it's it's unbelievable. So I don't know. Shame on you, Amazon, for producing this, because clearly there was not much, if any, effort that went into, well, just about anything, but especially the VFX, which were super subpar. But yeah, so we have the alien attack happening. So Radford, he's sitting there, he's trying to get all of his kids to safety. Well, both of them, I shouldn't say all of his kids, seems like it's a lot. He's got 2 kids, right? So he's sitting there trying to direct his son and direct his daughter to how to get to safety. And I mean, I know he has access to like all these cameras, and we see him be able to like view everything. But there's sometimes where I feel like his character was like borderline omnipotent. Like he was just sitting there like telling his son like, hey, you need to go left down the street. I'm like, how could you know what's happening in that moment, right? Like there's literally like meteors coming out of the sky. How could he possibly know the right way to go and to avoid all this stuff? Like you can't possibly know that information. And then like when his daughter's out there, like he's like, oh yeah, you have to go there. We're gonna turn on this Tesla and it's gonna remote you to some location. I'm like, damn, like I know that they're trying to show that, you know, that he has access to all his stuff, but my God, like you can't make it like totally unbelievable that he just is like clairvoyant to everything that's going on.
Well, I
But
mean,
I don't know.
he's hijacking drones. I mean,
Yeah. He's just everything. He's just like anything that needs to happen. He's able to do this from this little computer at the DHS, right? It's utterly amazing how much he's capable of doing. The guy's a regular superhero behind the scenes. So we do find out, right? So we get the some information here about the machines. Now the machines, they're looking for one thing, Luca. What are the machines looking for?
I would wager a guess and say they're looking for data.
Data, right? Data. They said this word data so many times that I was just like, I swear I was just tired of hearing it.
They're basically doing what Brainiac does, you know, the Superman villain, because all he's obsessed with is collecting data.
Yep.
You know.
Yep, and I guess that must have been the that must have been what they're looking for with this, because man, all they do is talk about data, and we see like kind of the I guess how we as an audience get a visual of the data being destroyed or whatever they're doing. I like how he pulls up his wife's Facebook page, his dead wife's Facebook page, I should mention, and we just slowly see like the pictures disappearing from the screen, and we slowly see like she had like a video, or she had an audio recording, and it just like slowly gets distorted, and I'm like, oh, how convenient. So as like they're absorbing all this data, specifically his wife's Facebook page is getting destroyed, and I'm like, I don't think that's how data works, right? I don't think that it just kind of gets like siphoned off of Facebook slowly. And for dramatic effect. I don't think that's how it is, but it did make me think of something fun. The next time I watch this film, which hopefully will not be for a very long time, but I think you should play a drinking game where you drink every time someone says data, because you're going to have a hell of a time there with how many times they utter the word data.
Yeah, you'll be sloshed by the end of the night, man.
I know, right? And then it'll be a good night there, especially if you're watching this. I mean, because it is it was something to experience.
But do they ever explain why they need that data? Because they just say, oh, they're here for the data. They just want to, collect the data. I mean,
they like data, man.
Well, I mean, like with Brainiac, right? The reason why Brainiac collects data is because he wants to store it in the system. And then once he has it stored, then he destroys the original copy so no one else can have it, and only he has it in his, skull-shaped ship that glides around the galaxy. Here, it's like they just want the data, but they never really go into, in depth as to why they want it, other than, oh, they just want it, and they're digging their tentacles into the network, and they're releasing those little bugs that apparently are hungry for, microchips and all that shit.
Yeah. Look, man, they like their data, right? So you just think about it, like we like our oxygen, right? They like their data. That's how they, I guess, live, right? That's their food, right? I'm just gonna assume it's that their nourishment is data, for whatever that's worth. Um, I like how during this alien attack we got this great twist in this film, right? Disruptor, right? Who we saw earlier, who we're trying to capture because that was the only thing that actually showed Radford was doing any level of work was trying to get the disruptor. We found out that the disruptor was none other than his own son, right? His own son was the disruptor he'd been following this whole time. And the whole twist is that the government, they actually knew about the aliens beforehand, and they were warned that if they use this Goliath program, right, that Disruptor was trying to help bring attention to, that if they were to use this Goliath program, the aliens would be activated and would be drawn to it.
Yeah, that part kind of threw me off, and I was like, okay, this movie doesn't make any sense now.
Yeah, I couldn't follow why that was a huge thing, right? And then like the director of DHS, like I guess kind of like knew about it and was okay with doing it. I'm not sure why. I guess he was equally as obsessed with data and protecting it. But I would argue that if you didn't activate Goliath, you wouldn't have to worry about it. But yeah, it was a very interesting.
But I mean, here's my thing though, because the data's there. It's not like Goliath, is activated, all of a sudden data just appears. The data's been there for years and years. So
That's true.
So I mean, wouldn't you assume that the aliens, would already just be there and just do their thing? Like, did you really need to activate this stupid project and then, sort of like, light up the welcome sign for the aliens and like, oh, now the data's ready. Let's go. It's like the dinner bell. Oh, it's ready. Let's go and get it now. It's like,
yeah, well, I mean, like obviously, like the data, it was too spread across the world, right? When a Goliath happened, it's like, oh, now we got this data to one spot. This is the right time to act. So, the aliens were like lying in wait for that. So this way, they had one nice central place to go. Even though I guess it doesn't make sense now I think about it because they just kind of came to Earth all over the place, and it would have made more sense just to appear at the DHS headquarters where the Goliath happened to be. But I don't know. But yeah, I don't think we should spend too much time thinking about that, Luca, because I have a feeling that the writers didn't spend a lot of time coming up with the thoughts about this film.
Whoever their consultant was apparently didn't know anything about tech either, or data, as you said, because they just assumed that once aliens access it, all of a sudden your Facebook page disappears, along with photos and everything.
In super dramatic fashion, right? For his dead wife, right? So, just to pull on the strings of the audience, as he would say, for that. But yeah, it's pretty pathetic, right? So, so we found out that, hey, the government's evil. They kind of knew about this and set it up, but now we have the right crew to fix this issue, right? We got Ice Cube, right? We got Ava Longoria, and we have Ice Cube's kids, right? This is the dream team to get rid of this issue, right? So, so they decide that, hey, my daughter, right, Ice Cube's daughter, she is some biomedical person that she's developing something that's going to attack cancer cells. And because this alien, it's both mechanical and biological, they decide like, hey, we're going to kind of make this like, I don't know, hybrid computer slash biological they're going to create some type of like weird thing that's going to merge these two things together to defeat the alien somehow, right? So don't put too much thought into it. Just know that they're going to combine these programs together and create a virus to counteract these aliens. They have to get this virus downstairs, right? Because Goliath is down at the bottom of DHS, where luckily Radford already is.
Well,
So,
don't forget the government has decided we're just gonna bomb the
yeah,
DHS,
that's
go to
true. Yes.
smithereens. So
Yeah, sorry. They make it a very clear thing that they have these bomber jets. They got 8 minutes to get out, um, or it blows up, right? So
but Radford can't get out because he's locked in. So
that's true. Yes,
yeah.
because no one cared about him, and they just like randomly shut down the site. Not sure what that's going to help because I'm pretty sure the aliens don't care about it. But hey, we're going to do that for, I guess, add a dramatic effect, right? So, so they have to get this virus downstairs, but they need like a flash drive, right? They have to be able to transport it from where he is downstairs. So, what do you think the most logical way to get a flash drive at this DHS headquarters, Luca? What do you think? How do you think our team is going to solve this problem?
Well, first of all, can I just say a guy who works in tech who doesn't carry a flash drive on him is not a tech guy. Let's be honest here, because almost everybody I know carries like a flash drive, like either on them or in their backpack or whatever. But it is an Amazon production, and what better way to deliver a flash drive than to use an Amazon drone? And can I also just say, don't you think it's kind of weird that when aliens are attacking the Earth, Amazon still makes it a priority to deliver something to you on time?
That's true. That's true. I like how, if you think about it, right? So with the moss, when the aliens, right, they're taking the data, they're going to take data from your dead ones before they attack Amazon, right? Amazon's too big for the aliens to deal with, right? Because Amazon's still going to work no matter what. So,
well, you remember that scene where the drone kind of like lands on the ground and it can't get up, and they see that one guy. I mean, government immunity and free internet is not enough. Like, you remember what the incentive was to get the guy to risk his life to flip the drone over.
Yep. Hey, we're gonna bribe with $1,000 Amazon gift card, right? That's what that guy needs. The guy that is that doesn't want to share anything, right? He's like worried about like people tracking him. But hey, I guess you're not worried about using an Amazon gift card. But yeah, that's how they when the drone gets toppled over, that's excuse me. That's how they further give us some Amazon product placement by doing the Amazon gift cards. So
yeah, and let's remember, I mean, Amazon does not track your data at all. They don't base their recommendations on your purchase history at all. Like, God forbid they would ever do such a thing,
Actually, I think that's kind of sus, because I feel like they constantly know what I'm looking at, but I guess that's an issue for another day.
That would explain a lot then. Okay.
So, yeah, so they luckily they're able to or the I guess the homeless guy, right? Because he's like, there's a tent there, so I assume he's homeless, but he gets the drone on the right shape with the flash drive, and they're able to just fly the drone right into the DHS headquarters. So I guess that's another thing with security I have a lot of questions about, how the drone just gets in there, but suppose it's locked down, but I guess not for unmanned vehicles to get in there. But yeah, they're able to help get it in there. And I like how kind of the climax of this, right, is Ice Cube. He finally leaves the room, right? And the whole time I've been watching this, and I think I even said it when we watched the trailer for it. I said, I bet Ice Cube never leaves that room. And I was pretty close, right? For 90% of the film.
Well, technically, you're still correct, because he doesn't leave the building.
He does leave the building. Yes, that's true, right? He doesn't leave the building. He does leave the room he's in, but he still ends up he's in the building overall. So I'll give myself half credit for it. But he did eventually get out of the room, and he takes the flash drive with this crazy virus on it, and puts it to Goliath, and that, like, I don't know, transmits stuff to all the other things, and they die, and that's it. That's how it ended. And I'm not gonna lie, Luca, I was laughing hysterically through this. I think that this might be the funniest comedy of 2025. But what would you think about it, Luca? Did you laugh? Did you have a good time watching this, or was it just too stupid?
I mean, I just feel a sudden need to place an order on Amazon for a flash drive.
You know what's weird? I was looking at Amazon when I was chatting, so I don't know. Maybe this is working. Damn it, Amazon is winning me over.
Yeah,
Um,
another thing I'm wondering too is, when are we going to start seeing drones? Like, I need that flash drive like I need oxygen right now. Like,
well, you never know when it's going to happen, but on the bright side, we'll know that Amazon will get you that flash drive even if the end of the world was happening.
true.
But yeah, I mean, to I guess just kind of talk about this, right? This film, if you can even call it that, because I'm going to use that in the loosest of terms, right? Um, I was laughing the whole time. And really, I was just laughing at just how bad everything was, right? Acting terrible, right? And I will say it's more so from I would say like Ice Cube, right? More than anything, right? Because I don't want to. I felt like the kids were at least trying, right? And there's maybe a little bit of allegory trying, right? But I mean, the acting was just bad, and I honestly I don't know if I can really blame anybody, right? Because there seemed to be such little effort put into this. I'm surprised he could get much of a performance done, right? I looked at this before. Do you know how many days in production this film was, Luca? If you want to take a guess, how long do you think they were producing this?
Probably say a week.
Close, 2 weeks, right? Or 15 days, right? So
Okay.
15 days it took them to put together this masterpiece, right? So clearly not a lot of time put into it. So it's kind of hard to fault the actors for, having very little product to be out there. Pacing, this to me was like one of the most frustrating things about this was everything, like every time something had to happen, it happened like in an instant, right? When the attack's happening, like, oh, immediately we're gonna have all this information about what's happening. Like all these news crews are like, oh yeah, well they're going to like all these sites and everything. It's just like everything had to, as soon as it happened, you had to have someone tell you that this is what's happening. And it was so distracting. It's like no scene ever had a moment just to breathe and just to be a scene. It almost felt like the movie, it was embarrassed to tell a story. And I felt like they were just fast forwarding through everything in the film. They just never gave it time to do anything because everything just had to move on to the next thing. And we had to get that immediate feedback on what was going on. The characters, like, were all over the place. Like, for instance, like Radford, right? I mean, he's supposed to be like this, really smart guy, and he's, really tech savvy and all this stuff. And I like when his daughter's in crisis, and he's like trying to call 911. Like, bro, there's fucking aliens out there, right? 911 is not doing house calls right now, right? Like, let's be real here. Like, they are just doomed. And I don't know why you're sitting there having to call them up to do anything. And it was just painful to watch. Everything about this just didn't gel. I remember the scene where we find out the disruptors, right? And they're like, it's not just one single individual, like, it's just a whole bunch of people. And like the aliens figure out, like, oh, we're gonna find the IPs of all these people, and then just immediately, like 3 seconds later, they're dead, right? It's just like, okay, cool, aliens know where you are, you're dead. Okay, move on to the next scene. We've spent way too much time showing them that. And I'm pretty sure. Did you feel like, I think this movie, it all took place in like a few hours, right? Like, did you have any sense of time over when anything was happening in this film?
I mean, it kind of felt like it was happening within a 24-hour period,
Easily.
Um,
Easily.
but I would also say that I would also say too that the kids act kind of ridiculous as well, because the daughter, the daughter's got that rebar in her leg, and she's like, I want to take it out. I want to take it out.
Yes.
And I'm like, lady, you're a chemist or a biochemist or
Yeah.
whatever. You of all people should know that it's better to leave it in there because it keeps up the pressure and it won't bleed out. And then a few seconds later, oh yeah, I ripped it out and now look what happened. She's like sitting in a pool of blood. I'm like, bitch, that's on you. Like, you did this to yourself. I mean, I wash my hands clean of this. Also, I kind of find it funny that the son, he keeps saying, "Hey, Dad, there's something important I need to tell you," and he keeps brushing it off. And then when he finds out it's his son, he's like, "It's you," and I'm like, "I think he was trying to tell you that, bro."
I know, right? It's they constantly are like taking the wrong times to focus on things. Like when his daughter's like bleeding out in the car, right? To your point, he's like, "Hey, this is a good time to talk about like." I understand why you didn't invite me to your baby shower. And even the daughter's like, is this the right time to ask? And I'm just like, oh, she's the voice of the audience. Because, yeah, this is the total worst time to bring up this baby shower thing is when she's literally dying in the back seat. And you want to talk about this? And then we get this, like, him, like, writing an email about how much he loved his kids. I'm like, oh, God, this is just really bad cringe on so many levels. So
yeah, it was pretty nauseating.
I will go ahead and give this a score, and I'm just gonna say it right now. This is a 0, right? Like this is just there is nothing redeeming in this film, right? There is nothing of substance. Now, like I said, that is a critical review for me, right? Did I enjoy or have fun watching this? Absolutely, right? And if you're someone that likes bad films, then you know what? This is definitely on the top of my pile of just like fun bad films, right? For those people that want to check it out. But if you're sitting there wondering if this is something worthwhile and the ideas of the 2025 film, or excuse me, the 2005 film, you're not going to get much out of it. Also, just one minor thing. I like how the Secretary of Defense, he was always at a golf course. I don't know if we should be looking into that anymore, but I like how when the end of the world is happening, the guy's just on the golf course the whole time. I think Amazon was trying to send us a very subtle clue about something, but
they want to broadcast the Masters. Yeah, I mean, they're obviously not going to have aliens destroy a golf course, because that could ruin their chances of being the future home of the Masters or the Ryder Cup later on.
Mm-hmm,
I mean, they've already got the NFL on Thursdays. I mean, they're trying to monopolize on.
That's true.
On streaming sports. I'm going to give it a -1 out of 5.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we're setting precedents here today, but there's really nothing about this movie that I enjoyed. It was kind of difficult. I really had to force myself and nearly tie myself down into the chair to finish watching it. And thankfully, it was an hour and a half because that was all I could stomach. Right?
It was an hour and a half with like all the fluff at the end, right? I don't think it got over 80 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, and not to mention too, I mean, this is filmmaking at its laziest. Lazy writing, lazy acting, lazy production values. I mean, lazy, cinematography, because really you're just relying on iPhone cameras and Zoom meetings in order to accomplish this. And like I said before at the beginning, I mean, this is a period piece. Like, if you ever want to know like why filmmaking remotely doesn't work, Exhibit A, War of the Worlds 2025 is a good example as to why no one in their right mind should be making movies via Zoom, right? Now podcasting is fine, but making a movie or TV show, not so much. I mean we saw what happened with SNL. They tried to make a funny episode, it didn't work. And in the case of War of the Worlds, nothing about it worked. It was an incoherent story. I don't think it knew exactly what kind of story it wanted to tell, really. Was it really about the aliens invading, or were the aliens just a metaphor for big government, or what? I mean, who knows? And frankly, I don't care enough to know. Yeah.
Who knows? Who cares?
But yeah, let us know down in the comments below what your thoughts are. Do you agree with our assessment? Did you like War of the Worlds? And if so, let us know why. We'd be very curious. But now we'll leave it over to the robot to give us his take on The Color Out of Space. Robot, take it away, sir.
Thanks, guys. So, first off, happy Halloween. I've always been a fan of the holiday, and I make it a point to plan months in advance for when I'm doing this one day out of the year, even more so than Christmas or Hanukkah. I'll be off after this to party with my homies. I'll be going as one of the Avengers, but I won't say who. And second off, it feels pretty good doing this on a Friday. Always wondered what it was like doing a review on Friday. Anyway, in keeping with the theme of alien invasions, I'm diving into 2019's The Color Out of Space, an adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's story of the same name, starring Nicolas Cage and Jolie Richardson. Now, admittedly, I don't know too much about the works of Lovecraft, yet we're aware of his influence on pop culture. Biggest one for me is when they parodied it on that Depart episode of South Park. Forget the episode names, so my bad. Nevertheless, you don't have to crack open one of his books to know just how impactful he was and still is. So, for the second half of this Halloween doubleheader, I'll be diving into what I liked and didn't like about this movie, explore some of its quirks and foibles, and see how it compares to War of the Worlds. Spoilers, from what Lee was saying I may have the upper hand here, but we shall see. Once again, happy Halloween. Crack open the Hershey's and take fives, and let's see what's so weird and scary about alien meteorites taking over the world. Or at least, a small hamlet. Someone should look into that. Just as in War of the Worlds, The Color Out of Space also deals with family drama in the midst of an alien arrival. Whereas in War of the Worlds everybody comes out okay and things sorta go back to normal, here it's not so much. Isn't it funny how the movies that follow a similar premise can just diverge? The Gardner family starts out as normal as can be. Sure, maybe country life doesn't suit everybody, but they're making the most out of it. But once the meteorite lands, that's when things start getting weird. Whatever came from space begins messing with their minds and the tech. The youngest, Jack, is the first to experience it, and soon it starts spreading, from the youngest up to mom and dad, slowly tearing them apart. The Gardners are already eccentric as it is. Lavinia, their daughter, is off practicing witchcraft, so that automatically qualifies her as baddie. Sorry to all witches and warlocks watching, but you know it's true. Ezra, the hippie, is out there anyway, so for him this is just a normal Tuesday. Nathan is overly concerned with his alpacas and is smelling things, and Teresa is missing a few fingers. Don't think she's too keen on country life based on her demeanor. And Benny loves the ganja, so what can you do? Ward, the hydrologist, is caught in the middle of all this madness. He's simply there to check on the water quality, and even when things start going haywire, he attributes it to water contamination. By the time the movie ends, what we've experienced along with the family seems pretty surreal, like it's all a dream. Did we really experience a horrific experimentation by extraterrestrials, or were they just messing with us all along? Nothing intrigues higher intelligent beings more than putting us hominids through the ringer and seeing what happens when things go awry. Usually, when it comes to alien invasions, you think of scary aliens, giant and advanced machines capable of leveling cities, and weaponry that makes hypersonic missiles look like giant crossbows. It becomes a trope. But something like a meteorite, appearing lifeless and unassuming, no one would think twice about it ever being a threat, let alone something that could carry something threatening. In War of the Worlds, the meteorite shower was a smokescreen to knock out all communications to prepare for the Martian invasion, whereas here the meteorite is the carrier of the alien invader. Can I say that? Here, it's not so overt, and rocks falling out of space are pretty innocuous. Happens all the time. However, the alien creature isn't overt, but rather, it messes with everyone's head. Its form is indeterminate, either appearing as a strange purple hue that flashes around the property, some weird insect that pops out of a well, hallucinations, or a lightning-shooting mist. What we do know is that its presence is affecting the Gardner family. At first, when it makes landfall, it's trying to get the lay of the land, figure out what the inhabitants are like. Recon, to use military lingo. From there it begins experimenting, such as fusing Teresa and Jack into something worse than Brundlefleet. But soon it toys with them, first cutting off communications and then driving them into the berserker state I mentioned in the last segment. I think it's safe to say this isn't a friendly first contact like we see in Star Trek, or even an encounter with a slightly familiar-looking alien like in the day the Earth stood still. This is an entity of which we have no comprehension and can barely begin to describe or understand what it can do. War of the Worlds has been adapted in numerous films throughout the years, and whatever characters and storylines they want to insert they are, for the most part, faithful to H.G. Wells' original story. However, the 2025 version puts the alien invasion on the backseat and even changes their motivations to suit today's concerns, which in turn leads to a bloated and subpar product that's more preachy than entertaining. The aliens aren't so much the villains as the United States government. Who would have thought? This movie, though, stays true to its roots while updating the narrative for 21st century audiences. Lovecraft is tapping into a mythos around beings that are as old as the cosmos itself, creatures that pre-exist all life in the universe, whose presence have sparked madness, created cults, and crafted lore on numerous worlds. The amorphous alien creature here is an ancient being that harnesses reality itself and bends it to its will, like a child playing with modeling clay. If humans happen to be in it, well, you're screwed. Watching it reminds me of Poltergeist and The Shining, where the dad in both films begin to descend into madness to the point where they cease to be the men they were. After all, when the head of the family falls, the breakup of the family unit isn't far behind. And, true to Lovecraft, it doesn't end the way we would like, where the final girl walks away, blooded but breathing. Lavinia meets her and just like the rest of her kin. While both stories dealt with a similar subject, I feel that one didn't really live up to the legacy of the original story, while the other definitely made sure to stay within the lines. First of all, Tommy Chong, the Tommy Chong. In an adaptation of an H.P. Lovecraft story. Oh yeah, baby, you got my attention. And he's on point, playing the same stoner as he did back in the 70s, that even in a cosmic horror film he doesn't feel too out of place. Second, as Ezra, the hippie squatter, his mind is stuck in the 60s, very much believing the aliens below are communicating. He's very receptive and strangely doesn't fight or resist, but becoming one with the universe, as the old-timers used to say. He understands what the alien is doing, but for me, I'm leaning towards something more sinister. After all, Lovecraftian horror is all about beings with less than noble intentions. Anyway, pretty soon he sheds his mortal coil and becomes one with them. At least, that's how it appears. He becomes a ghost in the machine, quite literally, and considering how everyone else comes to a sticky end, I'd say he got the better end of the deal. I just had to give my man a huge shout out. Love you, Tommy. If I had to pick one element I disliked, it was the fact that Ward sees where the color comes from. But I very much prefer my monsters to have a bit of a mystery around them. Sure, it shows us that there are more of where these things came from, but for me, just leaving it for us to speculate and figure out how it relates to the other monsters of Lovecraft's universe would be better. Let us do some of the imagining, you know, have the audience participate. Don't spell everything out entirely, but leave a little for us to chew on. That'd be my only gripe. The color out of space just works. It's horror on so many levels. It gives us body horror, psychological thriller, alien invasions, and a little witchcraft. A movie that tries to incorporate so many different subgenres of horror would normally fall flat on its face and become an unmitigated disaster, sacrificing story for something grandiose. But here, it does it so effortlessly and each subgenre breeds the other. Body horror leads to psychological breakdown and paranoia, because in the effort to make sense of something so twisted it leads to a crisis of faith. Whatever was real and true can no longer be certain. And the story is pretty simple to understand. The story is set in a bucolic environment, but this Eden quickly gets spoiled. In the midst of increasing horror, the gardeners try their best to keep a brave face, but that soon breaks down. And it's devilishly nice to see them descend to a level that humans dare not speak of. To drive people just a little bit crazy, all you gotta do is mess with their familiar setting, shake things up, and then sit back and watch the blowback. It is kinda weird to see Nathan Gardner go nuts when he sees his precious alpacas turned into something out of Greek mythology. This unnamed alien, without discernible form or true understanding of what it is, comes out as the perfect monster and villain. And that's what makes the color all the more menacing. The Martians in War of the Worlds, for all their bravado and shock and awe tactics, aren't as intimidating. We know what they look like and what they can do, and therefore we know how to take them down. We know what their motivations are, however ridiculous they may be, and we can counter them. But in the color out of space, it's less than clear-cut. There is no way to fight this thing or even try to reason with it. We best get out of its way and hope we emerge unscathed.